Welcome to Chem Corner with Christian Rubich. In today's episode, we are going to cover three topics. Number one, what is an orbital? Number two, the configuration of orbitals. And number three, writing an orbital notation. So, what is an orbital? Well, what is an orbital and what does it do? An orbital is expressed as a variety of shapes set on multiple intersecting planes. The orbital is used to describe the behavior of electron movement in an atom. There are four different types of orbitals: the s orbital, the p orbital, the d orbital, and the f orbital. Each orbital can only hold up to 2 electrons that spin in opposite directions in order to balance it and keep it stable. Let us move on to the configuration of orbitals. We'll start with the s orbital. It is the first and lowest level of the orbitals. It is spherically shaped and centered around the nucleus of the atom, and it is comprised of one orbital that holds 2 electrons. From there, we are going to the p orbital, which is the second orbital and has the second lowest level. It is shaped like ovals and are placed across from each other, such as on the pictures, and it's comprised of 3 orbitals that hold 6 electrons in total. After that, we have the d orbital. It's the third orbital and second highest orbital level, shamrock shaped and positioned on different axes, and is comprised of 5 orbitals that have 10 electrons total. And finally, we have the f orbital, which is the fourth and last orbital and it's the highest level. Its 3 orbitals look like pacifiers placed back to back, and the other 4 look like 2 d orbitals mushed together, comprised of 7 orbitals that have 14 electrons total. Now we can learn how to write an orbital notation. So, now that we have learned orbitals, we can now learn orbital notation. How to use orbital notation. Reminder, each orbital can only contain up to 2 electrons, and they are always spinning in opposite directions. So, each orbital can be represented with a box. Within each box are 2 arrows to represent the electrons. The s orbital has 1 box for 1 orbital holding 2 electrons. The p orbital has 3 boxes for 3 orbitals that each hold 2 electrons, making 6 electrons total. The d orbital has 5 boxes for 5 orbitals, each holding 2 electrons, making 10 electrons total. And the f orbital has 7 boxes for 7 orbitals, making 14 electrons total, with each orbital holding 2 electrons. So let's look at the steps. Step 1. Look at how many electrons the given element has. Step 2. Check the electron configuration chart to verify how many boxes you need and what order they are organized in if you are not familiar with the order. And step 3. Finally, place an arrow in a box to signify an electron of the element. Start with the lowest orbital. This will always be 1s. So we'll use oxygen as our example. It has 8 electrons. Note, you must fill a box before you go to the next one. Always fill each box in a level first before putting in a second arrow. So in 1s, we're going to be putting an arrow facing upwards, then an arrow facing downwards. We cannot move on to 2s until we have filled 1s. Now we're going to do the same with 2s as we did with 1s, so 1 up, 1 down. And for 2p, however, we're going to put 3 arrows up before we put an arrow down, since we have to fill these 3 boxes before we can go back and put in the second one, such as. Now, that concludes the lesson. I hope that this was helpful to any of you who did not already know this material. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time in Chem Corner. And this tutorial was created with Movely, which is a free and easy to use application. Just go to movely.com and sign up today. It is free and easy to use. Make any different video presentation today. This has been Chem Corner with Christian Rubich.